This is Jake. Hope you're okay today. We're looking at this book, great New Testament scholar, and this is a little academic work called The Message of the New Testament by F.F. Bruce, and we're looking at The Grace of God by F.F. Bruce. Nowhere has Paul more fully entered into the heart of Jesus' teaching about God and man than in his insistence on justification by divine grace. This is a principle which occurs repeatedly in Jesus' parable. The actual word justified appears in the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collectors. So let's just Luke 18:9. And he spoke this parable unto certain which trusted in themselves that they were righteous and despised others. Two men went up into the temple to pray, the one a Pharisee and the other a publican. The Pharisee stood and prayed unto himself, God, I thank thee that I am not as the other men are, extortioners and unjust and adulterers, or even as the publicans. I fast twice in the week, and I give tithes of all that I possess. The publican, standing afar off, would not lift up so much as his eyes unto heaven, but smote upon the breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For every one that exalteth himself shall be abased, and he that humbleth himself shall be exalted. The actual word justified appears in the parable of the Pharisee and tax collector in Luke 18:9-14. The tax collector acknowledged that he was a sinner and cast himself on God's mercy, went down to the house justified rather than the other. The phrase justified rather than the other is not Luke's imitation of a Pauline locution, for it reflects a Semitic idiom which is not present in Paul's formulations of the doctrine. Jesus in these words described God's acceptance of the sinner in terms of the sinner having been justified by way of an anticipation of his acquittal in the final judgment. Again, the last hired workmen in the parable of the labourers in the vineyard in Matthew 21:16 do not bargain with the owner about their pay. If a denarius was their fair rate of a day's work, those who agreed at dawn to do a day's work for the sum had no cause to complain when they received it at sunset. Those who worked for the last hour only might have expected but a small fraction of that, but they accepted the owner's undertaking to give them whatever is right, and in the event they also received a denarius each. God's love, says T.W. Manson, cannot be portioned out in quantities nicely adjusted to the merits of individuals. There is such a thing as the 12th part of a dinar. It was called a pondion, but there is no such thing as a 12th part of the love of God. So we'll continue that.